Hello and welcome to The Take. I'm your host, Chesley McNeil. Each weekday, we're looking at stories, making headlines, and bringing experts from our community to give their take. Here's a look back at some of the top takes from this week and how those in the know are seeing those stories that impact you. The planet Uranus is about 1.5 billion miles from the Earth, but it has marveled astronomers since its discovery in 1781 by English astronomer William Herschel. Now it's once again generating some cosmic buzz as astronomers are using NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, and has detected a tiny new moon orbiting around that planet. Let's bring in friend of the show, Judd Reedy, who is at Georgia Tech's School of Materials Science and Engineering. Welcome back to the show, Judd.
Thank you, Chelsea.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be back again.
So how big of a leap is this discovery in terms of what we can now see and study in our own solar system?
Well, it's the 29th moon of Uranus. It's very tiny. That's why we haven't discovered it yet. It's about 6 miles across, which would fit really comfortably between my office here on Georgia Tech campus and Lenox Mall, for instance. So very difficult to see. Even when Voyager 2 passed through the Uranus system, when I was a child, it didn't see this. It was below the detection limit. But the James Webb Space Telescope that we launched and commissioned a couple years ago is able to see it because it's viewing in the infrared, which is a different wavelength than our eyeballs see.
Now explain, you said that we haven't discovered it yet. We can see it, but we haven't discovered it. Explain the difference there.
Well, we hadn't discovered it. I mean, it's been there for many millions, billions of years. But we've only had the detector limits on the telescope to be able to see it, and soon we'll be able to assess its composition. Right now, it's dimmer than the other ones as well. So that's curious as to why it is so dim. Other than the fact that it's smaller, it's dimmer than it should be for that size.
Mm-hmm. Why did it take until 2025 now for us to see it on the telescope?
Because the James Webb Telescope, it was too small for Hubble's Space Telescope to see. We had to wait for the James Webb Telescope to see it. Even sending the Voyager probe right there to that neighborhood was not able to see it.
Wow.
So Uranus is a very interesting system overall. Just the planet itself is cockeyed 90 degrees, so it revolves around the Earth as if it's a rolling ball. So the pole points towards the sun as opposed to ours, which are more up and down.
Yeah.
Think of it that way.
What does that tell us about this telescope that can see things that even the Voyager and Hubble have missed? I mean, this is powerful, right?
Yeah, James Webb is the most powerful telescope ever. As I mentioned before, it's very good for observing in the infrared as opposed to the visible wavelengths that our eyeballs see with traditional telescopes. Other telescopes also look at other wavelengths, for instance, X-ray wavelengths, but the Webb telescope is in orbit. It's got a really complex segmented mirror that took a lot of engineers a lot of time to perfect that, and it's working and returning incredible scientific discoveries of outer space.
So this moon, I understand, is only about 6 miles wide, as you mentioned. I think you could practically jog around the planet in a day, right? Or at least that telescope, that satellite in a day. Does the size make it significantly or scientifically less important?
No, anything worth studying, from the smallest bacteria to the largest of black holes. Size does not matter in science, we should say.
Wow. What would you say that people wonder why we care so much about this little piece of rock? What would you say about if people say, well, why do we care about it?
Indeed. So there's things that are known and things that are unknown, and in between is the discovery aspect. Many years ago, we didn't know much about Earth's moon. Mm-hmm. Is there water on there? They used to think the black areas were oceans. They called them seas, Maria. No, it's not water, it's lava. Solidified lava.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you think with this discovery, it'll let us know that does it really let us know we have much more to discover out there? I mean, and maybe even life?
Space is infinite, literally an infinite amount of things to study and to try to understand, and we understand so little of it. Thankfully, we're getting better over time, getting capabilities like the Webb Space Telescope, for instance, to allow us to explore these things. And to touch on your point before, some people complain about spending money on space. Mm-hmm. Money's not spent on space, it's spent here on Earth. studying space, to build these instruments, to pay the scientists to operate them, to pay the technicians to fabricate it in the first place.
Yeah,
So,
well, I appreciate the new discoveries, especially in outer space. I'm very curious, and I'm sure there's more like me as well. Doc, really appreciate you being on with us today.
look forward to the next time, Chelsea.
You got it. All right. Plenty more stories for you coming up, folks. This is The Take. We're back right after this. Powder Springs just opened its brand new $13 million City Hall, bringing most of the government services under one roof for the first time. It's not just an office building, but a centerpiece for the city's push to revitalize downtown and connect with the community. Let's learn more about this big home base from Powder Springs Mayor Al Thurman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, Mayor, what was most likely for you personally standing there opening up the doors for this building for the first time?
I tell you, it's been a great excitement. I mean, you know, it's almost 3 years waiting for this opportunity, so it's been very exciting. It's a 5-star building. Everybody that comes into it can feel the excitement of this new building, and just having everyone under the same roof where different departments can collaborate. It's just exciting.
Yeah, we were looking at some pictures of that right now. What kind of feedback have you gotten so far from some of the residents?
Oh man, they love this building. You know, you have to think, we were all in different buildings. The city hall was one place, community development was another, the courts was in another one. To have everybody under one roof is really what the ultimate goal was.
Yeah. How does the new building reflect the pride and identity of Powder Springs?
It is. It's just explosive. It really is. It's explosive.
Yeah. Talk about all the services now that are located under one building, and why was it important to bring them all under one roof?
Well, one thing, you know, the whole idea of building a new city hall, we were running out of space. Certainly, the city is growing. I don't know if you know, Powder Springs is the fastest growing city in Cobb. And by the time we get with all of the development that we have in the pipeline, we could go from 20 to 25,000 people. Wow. So obviously we knew even back 3 years ago that obviously we needed to plan for more space and bringing everybody under one roof. And that was the goal. And obviously to see all of this come to fruition is just really exciting.
Yeah. $13 million project. Some would say, is it worth the price tag? What do you say to them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. How do you see this city hall being part of people's everyday lives, not just people coming and paying bills, but how is it a part of their everyday lives?
Well, obviously, you know, part of this new city hall, I don't know if you saw one of the things, we have a community room where people can come, activities can be held here. So we want community engagement. We have an art gallery here in the city hall. We want people to come in. This particular city hall overlooks the park. It's inviting. People can come in, walk through. It's just a beautiful building and a lot to behold.
Well, how much of this replaces the old city hall?
Say again?
How much of this replaces the old city hall?
I think in regards to the old city hall, we had very limited space. As I stated earlier, all of our department, community development was in a different building. Our court system was a different building. So it encapsulates everything that we needed under one roof. And it certainly makes collaboration a whole lot easier.
All right. What's next for Powder? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
It keeps the public from having to go from one building to the next to get services done.
Mm-hmm. What's next for Powder Springs now? Are there other projects on the horizon?
Well, obviously, right now we're on a moratorium. We've had so much development. People wanting to come to Powder Springs. Powder Springs seems to be the place to be now in Cobb. So we're looking at what the impact is of our growth, and because we've been growing so fast. So obviously we're trying to slow things down a little bit to make sure we can evaluate the impact of the growth. All
right, sounds good. Mayor Al, thanks for joining us this morning, man, taking a little time out to talk with us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, take care now. The Fulton County Board of Commissioners voted to allocate a $1.2 billion toward constructing a special purpose detention center and renovating the current Wright Street Jail. The 4-3 vote clears the way for extensive renovations to the existing Wright Street Jail, addressing serious infrastructure deficiencies. There will also be construction of a new special purpose facility for inmates with medical and mental health needs. The whole project was not expected to be completed until 2030. Now, ahead of Wednesday's vote, Fulton County Chairman Rob Pitts touted a plan here on The Take.
During the renovation of Wright Street, we'll have to transfer those inmates someplace. So they will be housed in this new special purpose facility while Wright Street is being renovated, as opposed to us finding space for them in other jails like Cobb County, where we have a significant number of our inmates there in Cobb County that costs us a pretty penny. So I think this is, hate to use that expression, but I think it's a win-win.
Okay, well, one person is coming out against the commissioner's vote is Fulton County Sheriff Pat Labatt. Last night, he released a special statement calling the decision of political games and smoke and mirrors, and immediately, that immediate repairs and replacement are needed. Longer terms promises. Let's bring in Sheriff Labatt now, joining us on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, good morning. Always good to see you. Good to be here. Thank you so much.
All right, expand on why you think the board's $1.2 billion plan is the wrong approach.
So first of all, that $1.2 billion plan is like being in a burning building and actually building a fire station 5 years later. And so if you really delve down into the minutia of the actual resolution and the plan, it actually says that we're not going to do anything in the immediate. We're going to build a special purpose building, to which 4 years ago we introduced to the Board of Commissioners, and they voted that down. And so now people that are running for office, that want to get airtime, have put in place a special purpose option that really does us no good. We need immediate relief. The women and men of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office are some of the best in the country. And to continue, and I've said this, to continue to be deliberately indifferent as to what our needs are, as to what our inmates' needs are, will really continue to cause harm. And so we have, for 4 years plus, stood on the side of we need immediate relief. And so I'll give you a good example. You heard the chairman talking about some of the relationships we have with Cobb County. Mm-hmm. Well, Cobb County's population has risen, and the Cobb County Sheriff does not have the ability to continue to hold at mass numbers what that looks like. Mm-hmm. So it is a penny wise and a pound foolish.
Gotcha. Now, you talk about the immediate repairs that are needed. When you walk into the Wright Street Jail, talk to us about those repairs that are needed.
Well, just night before last, your team was on site around 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night, when there was stormwater that was rushing through the dormitory style areas where 197 people actually have to live. We have locks that don't work. We have lighting that continues to be stripped. And a lot of it has to do with a holistic criminal justice failure. So if we can get people out of jail, and the mental health aspect of where we are. You have to keep in mind, Chesley, when we started, and we had this conversation, we started really 4 years ago, we had 3,600 people with 600 people sleeping on the floor. Mm-hmm. To date, we have 24 people sleeping on the floor because we are creeping up in our population. And again, I credit all the police chiefs in Fulton County for solving crimes, for getting the right people in jail, but ultimately, we have to do a better job.
Speaking of that, you place a lot of the blame on the commissioners. What's your role in this, your and your staff's role in this as well?
So again, what we have done has been really thought, purpose driven, right? We have been in a place where we've been intentionally transparent. The commission has underfunded the sheriff's office and really has caused an environment where people don't want to work at the Fulton County Jail. And so ultimately, again, I go back to I'm proud of the women and men that work here. They come to work every day. But you also have to keep in mind, because we're competing in a larger pool, the Atlanta Police Department, they offer childcare, they offer housing, they've restructured their pension plan. These are conversations that we've had year over year, time after time, with respect to approaching the board to try and create an environment where this is a employees benefit related opportunity for us to get it right. And we continue to focus on the jail. And if you keep in mind, take a look at the chairman's plan, it does not address the women and men of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office.
What would be your plan, Sheriff? What would you like to see done?
Well, I think you have to put people before politics, and you have to create an environment where people want to work here. And so that means education incentives. Chesley, right now, if you have a master's degree and a GED, you have the same starting salary. You have to make it really an environment where people want to come and thrive and help people. We've lost 70 people in the last 70 days because of the inactions of the Board of Commissioners. And it's not all of them. Let me be absolutely clear. There are some people on the Board of Commissioners that actually get it. You talk about Commissioner Barrett, you talk about Commissioner Mo Ivory, you talk about Commissioner Arrington, they get it because they're putting people before politics. But if we can really convince the others to do that, including the chairman wouldn't want to work in an environment where there's water running down the building. Yet and still, there are two things that are important. A couple years ago, they redid Assembly Hall. It cost $4 million. And right now, the Board of Commissioners on their 10th floor offices are going through a $4 million to $5 million renovation. Yet and still, they expect people that are hardworking, that come to work every day, to work in sewage, to work in stormwater, to work in some of the worst conditions in a jail that has really long since, for decades, been in this place.
A new FBI report is shedding light on what crime really looks like inside of America's schools, painting a complex picture of what incidents happen and what drives them and how safety challenges are evolving. The report says that more than 1 million criminal incidents occurred in schools from 2020 to 2024, which involved roughly 1.5 victims and 1.2 million known offenders. It found most incidents happen in September, and many of them outside of the traditional school hours. Most common incidents, assault, accounting for more than a third of all reports, and the vast majority of those involved the incidences involved what the FBI is calling personal weapons like fists, hands, teeth, and feet. Wow. And while the FBI's numbers lay out the scope of what's happening in our schools, the real question now is how we make sense of all those figures and what it means for students, parents, and the community moving forward. Let's bring in friend of the show, Dr. Thaddeus Johnson. He's assistant professor of the Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology at Georgia State. Dr. Thaddeus, welcome back to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so when you hear these numbers, right, we're looking at this and we're looking at trying to see in schools and what's becoming a little bit more dangerous, it seems, or are we just better at reporting these incidents? Which one is it? Is it more crime, or are we just, it's always been there and we're better at reporting it?
Well, let me say this is a little bit of both. And the one thing that I will say is that there are caveats about the data. 21, 22, you really can't use those for comparison. Those are not apples to apples. But 23 and 24, we can look at. And even though that we saw that there was more participation and more people involved in providing data, what we did see was that the actual rate actually decreased between 23 and 24. And so we know that most of these are assaults. Most of these are not gun assaults, not knife assaults. And so what we're seeing is a lot of personal conflict inside of our schools. And it's also important to know that this is not just for students and staff. This includes any crime that was reported at a school before, during, or after school hours. So it's important to kind of take those caveats. But this data does provide us to get a picture of what things look like inside of the schools. But I can't tell you whether it's getting worse or not, because there's no evidence for that.
Will those numbers help us? Will they help us to make the schools safer, you think?
Yeah, absolutely, because it tells us who our offenders are. We know that there were young males 13 to 15. We also know that 13 to 15 for those under 18 was the victim group, so we know the who. We also know that it's not guns, it's not knives, that generally it's personal conflict, it's fisticuffs. So we know that we can deal with everyday problems, prevent de-escalate assaults, bring in additional security, bring in policy, bring in training, and again, conflict de-escalation and conflict resolution for our students. tighten theft prevention, and also intensify drug prevention and things like that. So these are things that I was dealing with in school, and that was 1,000 years ago, and we still have those things. But there's no evidence, again, that things are getting worse or that most of these crimes involve guns or weapons.
So let's look at it from a parent's perspective, right? I mean, the number one question is my kid safe in school? We talked about these cell phones, and they want the kids to have the cell phone just in case they need to be alerted and that kind of thing. What does the data, what can you see from the data that helps out moms and dads right now? How should they be feeling right now?
Yeah, absolutely. They should feel safe. I know we see things on the news, right? But if we're looking at the actual race that we see on campus versus race other places, it's a little bit better, a little bit safer than it is in some general locations. So they should feel good about that. Also know that, again, most of these are not gun crimes or very serious crimes. What they look like are those traditional school fights that we generally see on and around campus. And also, I know we see things on the news and they grab our attention, but we cannot govern our lives off of anecdotes. The evidence shows that things are just as safe as it has been. In fact, from 2010 to 2022, we saw that our schools were being safer in another victimization report. And so add that on top of what we see in 22 and 23, one could argue that our schools are getting safer or just as safe as they've always been. So this is not the point for parents to be concerned about beyond the normal concerns about your kids in school.
You know, Georgia just passed a new mental health bill that requires a mental health coordinator in schools. Will this help out with these fights that are taking place?
I think that's really a great thing. You know, we see these things in other institutions, and I think what it provides is a way for people to mediate, for people to recognize triggers, for someone to see if a student's being bullied, for students to have someone just to come and talk to that's they don't feel judged by. So to have these programs there, to have someone who's trained on site is only going to help. We do that in police, and we're bringing those experts on, and so those same things can help with the security and safety of our schools.
Dr. Thaddeus Johnson, always a pleasure to talk to you. Always good insight, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, take care. A simple farmers market in Clark County has grown into something much bigger. The Marigold Collective is helping local farms thrive, help fight food insecurity, and turning neighbors into a true community. Here to tell us more about this wonderful story is Dr. Laura Ney, a county extension agent with the UGA Extension. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. When people hear about a farmer's market, they may think of just going to a place where they buy fresh produce, but you're saying the Marigold Collective is much bigger than that.
Yeah, and the hardest question we get is, what is the Marigold Collective? And the reason for that is we've always wanted to be something more complex than is easy to answer and a quick answer. So here we are, and we have gotten our wish. It began as a way to address building a healthy food system within a small community. The city of Winterville is where we're located, and really it's been a tremendous collaboration with the city itself. I really think that's why it's been possible to do what we've been able to do. And it's a unique program and organization that I've never really seen anything like it, where we're addressing, and the community is addressing, the food system through all of its components, not just providing a market where fresh food is available. And that is everything from the land where the food is grown, the people that are going to be consuming that food, issues of food waste, education within the community, the growers, and everything in between. It's really something special.
Yeah, this is just outside of Athens in Winterville, right? From your perspective, when you walk through that market on a Saturday morning, what's the feeling you get from the community there?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like going back in time. I've been to a lot of farmers markets, and they're really all pretty wonderful, but I would say the Marigold Market, which is one component of the collective, has its own special character. It's located in the heart of Winterville, Georgia, which is this special community in and of itself, and it's in Pittard Park, which is this beautiful, picturesque green space with large trees and everybody coming out who are neighbors, and music is usually happening, and produce and vendors and fresh bread. It's wonderful.
Yeah. What kind of a difference are you seeing for the smaller farmers and the food entrepreneurs who are taking part in the collective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think something that has been really fun to work on with this organization as an agriculture agent and somebody who's really invested in developing the producers themselves and local production is that this market and the collective itself has been focused on incubating smaller producers and newer producers. We have some more established folks that sell their produce with us, but this market has really helped young, in terms of newly established producers, get their feet under them, and they've created a network within themselves, and everybody helps each other. And there's been a lot of things that the organization has done to help lower barriers to be able to start selling and start producing their food. So that's been something that's been really neat to see.
Yeah. What's the hot item there right now? What food sells the fastest?
Oh man, that's gonna depend seasonally. You know, the fruit is always really hot item. So I think one thing that's special about fruit, I guess vegetables really, of course, are seasonal as well, but fruit tends to really have just its few weeks or maybe a month where it's at peak production. So any fruit that is in season and at its peak flavor, man, we sell that right away.
Talk to me about the importance of the education that goes into this, especially when you talk about school children and building a stronger local food system for the future there.
Yeah, I think when we talk about building a local anything system, but especially a food system, to address the educational component is something that maybe more and more is getting recognized, but hasn't been traditionally. And so being able to work with the community, and a lot of times it's really fun and impactful to do that with the youth of a community. So getting into schools is something that we've been working on for the past couple of years. And so there's a really cool program where farmers work with our board members from the collective, and we go into first grade classrooms, teach them about one topic, maybe a fruit that's in season, or the way something's produced, or their own food system, teach them a little lesson, have them build a relationship with a farmer, and then we actually do a small pop-up market with some limited selection, and they get tokens and they get to purchase their own produce there. So just kind of introducing them to a local food system concept, I think, is really cool. Okay,
if Laura, if somebody's watching today and they want to be down with it, right? They want to get involved, what's the best way they can support the collective or even the UGA extension work locally there?
Absolutely, yeah. So I will say for the collective, there's so much more. I don't have time to tell you today. So please check out the website, which is beautifully designed. It's marigoldcollectivewinterville.com. You can go there and check it out. You can find ways to be involved, visit, or donate. And then if you've never heard of your local extension office, every county in Georgia has one, and it's an excellent resource for family consumer science, youth education, and agriculture and natural resources. So please check out your local office.
President Trump signed an executive order targeting flag desecration, primarily or particularly flag burning. The order does not explicitly criminalize flag burning across the board, but instead directs federal enforcement and immigration consequences for those who desecrate the American flag under certain conditions. Under the order, the president declared that those who burn the flag, the U.S. flag, face mandatory 1-year sentence in jail. Foreign nationals who desecrate the flag would risk visa revocation and deportation. And the order directs the Department of Justice to prioritize cases where flag burning overlaps with crimes like violence and property damage. After signing the order, the president touched on that 1-year jail term.
What the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, you get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they? Yeah, incitement. Incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record.
All right, here to help us understand it is friend of the show, Emory Political Science Professor Andrea Gillespie. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start off with this. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in 1989 that burning the American flag as part of a protest was protected by the First Amendment. Why has the burning of the American flag garnered so much debate nowadays? Why is it such a flashpoint now?
Well, I mean, it was a flashpoint in 1989 when Texas versus Johnson was decided. For many patriotic Americans, seeing their flag burned and desecrated is a sign of disrespect. They don't view it as a sign of speech. The Supreme Court has said otherwise, and we're all bound to that, and that includes President Trump.
So what's the message that it sends, the White House is sending, and is willing to press against the decade of the First Amendment precedent?
Well, there are two different things that I would be looking for. First, at its most benign, this could very much be a symbolic measure. I also think that the Trump administration may be attempting to test the limits of how civil rights and civil liberties and our Bill of Rights protections actually apply to non-citizens. Now, the court has weighed in and said that non-citizens living in the U.S. enjoy the same protections that people who are citizens have. And so this may be something that the Trump administration is trying to push the bounds of. I think it's also trying to send a chilling effect, right, to try to quell protest as well. At worst, this is a representation of the Trump administration's lack of respect for checks and balances. So we know that President Trump holds a unitary theory of the executive branch, and he wants all members of the executive branch to report to him and to be loyal to him and for him to be able to dictate anything to them. But we're also looking at the relationship between the executive branch and the co-equal legislative and judicial branches. And so if the Supreme Court says that something like flag burning is protected speech, then the executive branch is bound to honor that. And so at worst, what civil libertarians and those who oppose President Trump are worried about is that this is a usurpation of power and that this seeks to expand executive authority above and beyond what the power of the judicial branch is. And that is something that is concerning for people.
Yeah. How do you see this playing out with his base, with the president's base, compared to independent or swinging voters?
So that actually does raise a third point, that this is just purely symbolic. And so we know that the Republican Party, especially under Donald Trump, has taken the opportunity, every opportunity, to try to present itself as being the super patriotic party, the party of real Americans. And so by issuing an executive order against flag burning, this is something that would play well to the base because it seems like he is defending Americana.
Mm-hmm. Do you see this maybe backfiring, this executive order backfiring, or by energizing opponents who see the government as overreaching here?
Yes, I mean, you could already see that in terms of some of the rhetoric that, people are already discussing with respect to that. But I think, what the real test is going to be if somebody is actually prosecuted under this, whether or not they sue on First Amendment grounds and they use Texas versus Johnson as their precedent, and then seeing how that would actually be handled if there was a confrontation between the Trump White House and the Supreme Court over this particular issue.
Yeah, this order singles out foreign nationals who burn the flag, possible deportation. How does this tie in with the immigration policy that we have in place now?
Well, I mean, President Trump has had a very aggressive immigration policy in terms of identifying and collecting and deporting people who he's accused of being involved in crimes. And so I think that this is, twofold. Again, the Trump administration is raising questions about how many civil liberties he has to honor for people who are not U.S. citizens. Mm-hmm. And I think this is another instance of one of those tests and norms pushing that the Trump administration is particularly inclined to do. But then also it is about trying to quell dissent and trying to quell protest. And so there may be people who might have burned a flag in protest who might be, more timid and might not actually show up to protest some of these seizures of individuals who have, been in this country illegally and are deemed to have criminal convictions.
Yeah, we have about 30 seconds left here. If or when this does get a chance to go to court, what kind of showdown over free speech protections do you see this playing out?
This is one of those instances where we have seen the Supreme Court sometimes take different approaches with respect to precedent. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know of a situation in which I could see this precedent necessarily being overturned, but not everybody on the Supreme Court actually really agrees with stare decisis in the way that I see it. So stare decisis is the principle of letting prior precedents kind of govern decision-making going forward. So there may be some people who might give him a sympathetic ear on some of these issues, but there's still going to be stalwarts who are going to look at the original case and say that this isn't a question that flag burning is protected speech.
Gotcha. All right, Professor, really appreciate you, Andrea Gillespie, for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Financial stress seems to be a way of life now, but a new study suggests that one gender far more stressed out than the other gender. Research from Fidelity Investments show that roughly 9 in 10 women report feeling financially stressed across income levels. Add to this, high stress was noted in and around 8 of 10 women out without emergency savings, roughly about 3/4 who only financially plan days ahead. Let's find out more about this and ways we can lower this stress with April Reed Cruz. She's the co-CEO of financial advisor of Reed Financial Group out of Snellville. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
All right. When you hear that 9 out of 10 women feel financially stressed, what stands out most to you about that?
It doesn't surprise me. It's a little bit disappointing because we have come so far and women control more wealth today than they ever have before. In fact, women are expected to control more wealth than men by 2030. So what it tells me is we still have a long way to go in confidence and education because women are controlling more and more wealth, and that's going to continue to be the case. But we're not seeing that confidence. We're seeing a lag in confidence and often a lag in education as well.
Wow. Do you think money stress for women is different compared to men? And if so, how is that the case?
Absolutely. You know, it's a social norm and has been for quite some time that a lot of times what we're seeing is men control the finances of the household. They're the financial decision makers. And so for those who are married, that's just not been their role. The divide and conquer can kind of backfire a bit on this one. And what we see also is gender pay gap. Women still who are working full time are at 83% of the salary of men who are full time. We see caregiving roles, both as a mother, so through motherhood, whether that is a reduction of the capacity of your work to part-time work, gaps in the workforce, or also now what we're seeing a lot of too is women also become caregivers for their parents. So they're kind of getting it on both ends and causing these gaps in the financial aspect as well, as far as earnings power, and that being really the primary focus. So our encouragement is that women should really become involved as early as possible, even if it's not their primary role in the household.
What are some of the warning signs you see amongst your clients that they are getting too stressed over this thing?
A lot of times people, when they're stressed into inaction. And that can be one of the worst things that we can do. It can seem like such a daunting task to try to cross off some of these lists, saving 10 to 15%, establishing an adequate emergency reserve, that sometimes that laundry list of things to do, so to speak, just seems too daunting. And so we don't start. That's probably the biggest warning sign that I see, or people who will say things to me like, this is something that I'm not comfortable with. I don't understand it and I don't know where to turn. So when you feel that way, the recommendation is start small, find a mentor or maybe even a financial service professional to really help hold you accountable and help you through that education and action item process.
Yeah, life itself seems to be stressful. How much would you say the financial stress is rooted in these everyday things, prices going up, gas, groceries, all these things, everyday expenses? How much is rooted in that?
A lot of it is. Over the last 5 years, we've seen numbers soar as far as inflation goes. The cost of living across the board is just astronomical for a lot of people, especially those who we work with who often are on a fixed income, who are retired or preparing to be on a fixed income. Home prices have continued to increase, and with that, property tax increases. We've seen homeowners insurance increases. So across the board, significant increases that are stress for people. We encourage you to really take a look at where you might be able to cut back on subscriptions, negotiate some of those rates, look at some competitors. Some of those small action steps can really help alleviate some of that stress.
All right, April, we got 20 seconds left. Tell me what gives you hope when you look at how women are handling money today.
I am so encouraged at how women are really taking the reins with education and hungry for more education. It's a passion that I love. A lot of women are forced into it with widowhood or divorce. And I'm starting to see a shift in that the interest is coming sooner, which is fantastic.
All right, April Reed Cruz, really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks for your insight. Across Georgia, teenagers are stepping into the role of entrepreneur, gaining confidence, leadership skills, and proving that it's never too early to start building a future. Here to talk more about Georgia Flex. The Georgia Flex program is Heath Tippins. He's the president of the Cherokee Office of Economic Development. Heath, welcome to the show.
Morning, Chesley. Thank you for having us today.
Absolutely. First of all, what's behind the Georgia Flex program?
So what Flex is, we're currently teaming up with our great partners at the Cherokee County School District to offer this awesome opportunity. I know I would have loved to have something like this to participate in when I was in high school, but Flex stands for Foundational Leadership and Entrepreneur Experience. The program actually started in Fitzgerald, Georgia in 2022 and now includes around 20 communities all across the state. But it's a hands-on entrepreneurship program designed for high school students where they can create real businesses, make real money, and then participants develop business plans, operate those businesses, attend workshops, and receive mentorship from local business leaders as well as teacher advisors within the schools. And the program includes a series of competitions with the top teams receiving seed money and then advancing on to a statewide competition where they can win up to $10,000. So basically it's kind of like Shark Tank for high school students.
Yeah, it would have been very beneficial when I was in school. I'm with you. Why is it important to give these high school students this kind of hands-on experience?
Sure. I mean, I think two things. I mean, it's twofold. It gives our students the tools to be more successful. In past surveys, students have noted that they feel better prepared in public speaking, time management, confidence, accountability, financial literacy. The list goes on. And of the companies that were started as a result of Flex, 59% of those are still in operation. So it's generating real economic impact within the community as well.
Yeah. Does the Flex program really help the students prepare for the real life demands of workforce, beyond what they learn in a traditional classroom?
Oh yeah, I believe so. They're starting real businesses. I mean, so they're going in, they create a business plan, present that. That's kind of how it's narrowed down to begin with through the 3 rounds. And so, I mean, they're starting real businesses and getting real world experience.
Talk to me about the feedback from the kids. What's the excitement on their faces, if there's any, or do they just think this is hard work?
Oh, no, they're excited to launch these businesses. And these are kind of across the board. It comes from a diverse sectors kind of all across the board. So they're very excited for the opportunity. It's something new, and we're looking forward to rolling this out. We're actually in the schools this week promoting it at all 6 high schools here locally, and a lot of kids are very excited. We've actually already got 20 different student companies that have already signed up for it.
You talk about leadership as well, right? So beyond the business side of it, how does the program help the students become better leaders?
Absolutely. I mean, they're leading these companies. And so when they're launching them, they're going through every single motion as you would when, say, someone that's graduated college or someone that's an entrepreneur that's looking to start a company. That's leadership right there. They're going through all the motions to create a real company just right out of the gate. And so I believe that's taking leadership and stepping forward with it.
Lastly, do you see the program expanding any?
Here locally, we're going to be planning to offer it on an annual basis. But again, like I said, it's already within 20 communities all across the state. So I would see that it would continue to catch on and continue expansion all across the state of Georgia.
Got it.
I would recommend checking out the website, CherokeeGA.org/flex. That'll have all the breakdown on the program itself.
Good stuff right there. Heath Tippins, thanks so much for joining us today. All right, a record was broken this weekend when it comes to the highest selling sports card. A 2007-2008 Upper Deck Collection dual logo man basketball card sold for a record-breaking $12.932 million. And you're probably guessing, well, who was on that card? If you're thinking LeBron James, you're thinking wrong. The card featured the logo patches from the jerseys of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, along with their photos and signatures on there. I know some of you are saying, well, is it worth all that? Well, the auction says the demand for the card was so astronomical, they started the bidding at $6 million. Of course, it exceeded that, almost doubled that. Well, did double that, right? Making it the most expensive card in history. The previous card was a mint condition 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle baseball card that sold for $12.6 million. Because of Kobe Bryant's tragic death in 2020, that will be the only card of its kind. So it is worth something. Now the buyer decided not to be identified, but I want to know who this person is. Who makes this kind of money? to be spending on a Topps card. $12 million for a card? Man, you know how much you can do with that? That's all we got for you today, folks. Make it a great one. Try to encourage someone. And if you got $12 million, hook a brother up. Jeez, $12 million.